section, new books in, new events that they'll be scheduling this summer. The summer reading program, they're accepting all the applications for that now. So if parents are looking for something for their kids to be doing, this is a great thing to hop on and get signed up for. A quick update on Fiesta Days. I know I did that a couple of weeks ago, but as things are ever changing, we wanted to share that the mayor and council are bound and determined to have Fiesta Days. So we're actually planning two. One will be, if we're in yellow, which will be very minimal. It would include all of the Parks and Rec programs and a couple of events. We're hoping for green and we're planning for green. We're moving forward. But with that being said, every event has different drop dead dates that they need to know whether or not we're hosting. So we're moving forward. It will look different and we will keep everybody posted. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Scobes.
Mayor, I'd like to echo the same sentiment. A lot of old students I have graduating today, or this week rather, and so just congratulations to them. Very difficult, or certainly strange week for them. The American Legion and Veterans Council, but the American Legion specifically, requests anyone's help using whatever masks, gloves, social distancing, things like that. But this Thursday, May 21st, from 3:30 to 4 o'clock is what they said they would be meeting at the cemetery to put out crosses. 3, okay.
That was the word I just got.
That was the last one, okay.
3 o'clock.
All right, so 3 o'clock, meet at the cemetery to put out crosses for Memorial Day. Again, they will not have a Memorial Day ceremony as they normally do, but we'll still have the crosses and put out in memory of that. And then also Thursday morning, I have the Utah Lake Commission meeting. That'll be a Zoom meeting as well.
Go back on the crosses.
Oh, oops.
Tuesday, put up Thursday at 3 o'clock and then take down Tuesday at 3 o'clock.
Okay, there we go. There you have it. And that's it, Utah Lake Commission meeting Thursday morning, sometime before I'm standing for everybody's graduation, so that's it.
Great, thank you. Councilman Mendenhall.
Thank you, Mayor. Quick compliment to the Parks and Rec Committee here in Spanish Fork. I know neighbors, friends, relatives that have just this week and last week tried to play it by ear just as much as Dale's department has tried to play it by ear as we change status. Just compliment to them again for a moving target, and to the residents for a moving target of the importance of getting out, doing something as a family, and seeing your son or daughter participate in something like that. I'm grateful that we're to that point where we can do that, and will help us all get through to a better place. So thank you, Dale. Thanks Parks and Rec for all your hard work and hitting that moving target. It truly is moving. The Chamber of Commerce, again, thank you to local businesses in town for doing what you can to reinvent yourself. Multiple calls with Heather Youd and the Chamber Board to discuss the options and the alternatives of staying, staying relative, staying in business and supporting, businesses and families. I guess my indication there to the public is simply do what you've continued to do and shop local. Spend those dollars that you have continually on local business where you can and when you can, because that does put money back into our local economy and helps us all stay in business, helps us all survive and feed our families. So kudos to Heather and the Chamber Board to continually try to help navigate that moving target as well. The Utah League of Cities and Towns had multiple meetings with them Again, I can't stress enough the gratefulness of our mayor leading Utah County mayors in the discussions of the relief funds, the coronavirus relief funds that are due to local government from your county. Our mayor has been a vocal proponent for us as a city, which results in a vocal proponent for you to be able to access funds, whether it be business-wise or city-wise, as we're trying to participate in those funds that relate to COVID-related expenses. So again, those are moving every single day, it seems like, but the League of Cities and Towns, along with the Association of the Utah Association of Counties, and specifically the Utah County mayors, have done great work and great strides in making sure that those funds that are received from the Treasury Department, that us as taxpayers are all part of, are received here as locally as possible. So again, thank you, Mayor, for your participation there and your voice there. The seniors, it was brought up, the seniors already, as far as seniors to our local high schools, Spanish Fork, Maple Mountain, ALA, and our Landmark High School as well. Kudos to all of you to work in circumstances that are beyond your control, to adapt, to change, not only to the students, but to the teachers. I've stressed this to the district a couple of times during the last couple of weeks, but publicly, I'd just like to thank them for all you do. Kier, I know you're part of that intimately, but you teachers, you don't know that the effect that you've had. I don't know why I'm getting emotional about it, but maybe a 13-year-old and an 8-year-old that have received correspondence from teachers that have went above and beyond on keeping them educated and keeping them certainly covering the deficiencies of Amber and I on trying to teach our kids. So thank you, Kier. The Senior Center as well. Verna Jo has been a stalwart in keeping our seniors, along with the board, of reaching out to those that are at the most risk in our community. The weekly phone calls, the correspondence to people that maybe are more lonely than anybody. She's just done such a great job to keep that afloat. Soon we'll be able to get back together for lunches and everything else that the Senior Center is all about. But in the meantime, I can't say enough about the Senior Center and the way that they've adapted to the new regulations. So thank you, Verna Jo. Thank you, all the Seniors Board, for keeping everybody in tune and involved, so we can be connected as much as we can while we're still distant. So those are the meetings I've had, Mayor, and I can't say enough about the way people have stepped up in a crisis, in a pandemic, and taking care of their neighbors. Each one of those sections have just been phenomenal for the city. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councilman Argyle.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to also do a shout out to the seniors, tell them congratulations, wish them luck in their future endeavors. I'm sure this will be something to remember, what's gone on in the last few months, and some of the struggles and some of the successes that you've had. And as Mike talked about some of the teachers, I've seen some of these. We have, sorry, Mike. We have some awesome teachers in our community who went above and beyond what they needed to do in order to help these seniors graduate and help the other kids graduate from their classes and move on to their next grades. And a lot of effort was done to do that, and I just want to congratulate them, and thanks to the teachers also. What an awesome thing we have to have those teachers care about our children in this community. I also want to do a shout out. I can't remember if Brandon did a shout out and a thanks to our community. We put out 10 dumpsters, and our community used those dumpsters. Our purpose was to lighten the load down to the transfer station, and I think we did that. I wished I'd remembered the numbers were off the map to the point. 675 tons of garbage that you cleaned out of your homes and we took down to the transfer station. So I think and I hope that this will be something that maybe we'll look forward to each spring and allow you to do this. It was a great success. Also, Mayor, our manager, Chris Childs down to the airport asked me to mention this. We just recently received a grant for $30,000, and the mayor just signed that. And he just found out that he has a chance to get another grant for $27,000, which they would like to use that grant to improve their auto weather observation, which is a system that allows the planes as they come into the Spanish Fork Airport so that they can see where the weather is bad so that they have that space that they can land. And if they can upgrade that to a level 3, then they can upgrade our AWOS to a level 3, the FAA will take over the maintenance of that program, which costs the city $5,000 right now. It would cost the city a little bit of money, but we would get that back over time if the FAA was managing that AWOS system, and it would greatly improve our airport. And we're grateful for Chris. He does an awesome job down there keeping track of our airport and the things that go on down there. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We've got some great things. Talking about the teachers and that, my wife's a kindergarten teacher. It's been kind of fun to watch her get on her computer and do lessons with all her kids, and what's really fun is to see those kids send their videos back and talking to her and telling how much they love her and miss her and wish they were in school. One neat thing that Cheryl's been doing is she reads a bedtime story each night for them. And so I had got one report back. A family said, well, we get together as a family and watch that, and that video, she reads that story, a chapter each night. And so there's some great teachers out there. It's kind of a unique situation that's happened. It's a little different teaching, but there are some benefits and there's some neat things that are coming out of there. Now, I know Mike's kids told me that they hope they don't have the same teacher next year in their house.
That's true.
No, they've done well. A lot of parents have stepped up and done a great job there. The other day we were driving around the ballparks Saturday, and it was great to see kids out there practicing baseball on the fields, playing, practicing. And I love to hear that. I love to see that. To get our youth back out there. The playgrounds are back open. It's good to see the kids out there playing again and families being there and keeping maintaining our social distance but enjoying the things that we have there. Scott, can you put that up for me? Here's a picture of what some of the young single adults in our our city had been doing last night. They went down and did a service project along an area in town and filled that trailer full of trash. There's old couches, refrigerators, filled that clear full. So kudos to those youth that went out and did that as a service project. They're still doing service even during all this time, and I just want to put a shout out and tell them how much I appreciate that. So, and the same thing, I want to let everybody here, all our citizens, to know how much we appreciate what they've been doing during this time. You've done a great job. As you notice, I've still got this beard. I've told them that as soon as we go green, I'll shave this beard. This is my protest to this virus.
No, keep it going.
So we'll see what happens. Anyway, thank you. Let's move to Spanish Fork 101. It looks like Kelly Peterson and Kevin Garlick.
So I'm Kelly Peterson, Superintendent for Spanish Fork Power. We have Kevin Garlick here today to give you a progress report on the Renewable Energy Act that Utah has mandated for us to do as an agency, and Spanish Fork being a member of that agency. So we asked Kevin to come and give a report to you guys on what our requirements are as the power department and members of UMPA. So Kevin, your turn.
Mayor, members of the council, it's a real pleasure to be with you. Again, when I woke up this morning, I was expecting a Zoom conference, and so dressed appropriately, and I apologize for a little more relaxed attire than I have. But anyway, it's really a pleasure to be with you and in this kind of a setting. I want to report to you as, again, my name is Kevin Garlick, and I'm the Generation Manager for Utah Municipal Power Agency. And for all of you that know this, but maybe for your audience, Utah Municipal Power Agency, UMPA, is your power supply for all of the electricity that flows into Spanish Fork. And we strive to work and provide low-cost rates so that Spanish Fork can pass those rates on to the consumer, along with reliable and safety in the electricity business that we operate in. The report that I'm going to walk through is a requirement from the state of Utah. Back in 2008, the state legislators adopted a goal for all utilities, including municipalities, to try to achieve 20% renewables by 2025. And that we're supposed to give progress reports on how well we're doing that, and that's what the purpose of this meeting is for, this report. So if we can go to the next slide. Just to remind you, UMPA is made up of 6 member cities. We have Spanish Fork, Provo, Salem in Utah Valley. We have Manti and San Pete, and Levan and Nephi in Juab County. And Spanish Fork is continuing to grow and now represents almost a quarter of the electricity requirements of the agency. We are governed by a board of directors, and each city assigns a member to serve on that board, and in most cases it's the mayor, and we appreciate how good Mayor Layson is to work with, just to report back to you. Also, we have an advisory board, a technical committee, which is made up of the utility managers, which Kelly Peterson sits on. And again, they take on the duties of really identifying issues that they want us as the agency to address and develop policies in guiding your power supply. So we are not governed by a public service commission like Rocky Mountain Power is. We are governed by the municipal council members, as you set and dictate policies for your utility, along with the board for UMPA when it sets budget policies for us. Next slide. So going back to what the requirement is under the state code, and again, this, like most state codes, it is quite lengthy and detailed. And again, I just simply summarized it here, but the goal is 20% of additional renewable energy by 2025, And there's a clause, if feasible. So in some ways, there's a little bit of an out if for some reason we had to have significant cost increases to make this happen. And then again, we're supposed to provide a report. Actually, we were supposed to do a report in 2010, 2015. For some reason, we didn't know that, but 2020, we're here to give you a report. And then we have to also provide a report in 2024 and 2025. So next slide. So in the material that we sent you, you actually got a copy of the report. It's about 6 pages. And I'll just say one of the details in that report that you cannot read from that screen is basically a description of how we plan to meet that goal of 20% by 2025. And what you have on the screen there and what's in the report is we go by fiscal years. That's how we do business like the city. And we've identified the different expected forecasted loads. In other words, the future consumption of electricity. And then we've also identified resources, power supplies that we have under contract, and those that we think will retain in order to meet that goal. And the good news, if you can read it, but I'm just saying that we're going to be able to achieve our goal fairly comfortable. We're going from 7% currently to roughly 30% in a couple years, and could be as close as to 40% by 2025. So if we go to the next slide, I'll probably show you some more details here. So this is a pie chart that represents our fuel mix, of the different power supplies that we have. And we've just summarized the different coal facilities, the different gas facilities, and the different renewables. Again, a large amount of our renewables come from our federal power contracts, that is hydro generation that comes out of the Glen Canyon Dam, Flaming Gorge, some of the federal facilities. And just within the fiscal year last year, we had a more than 50% coal generation, but in the upcoming budget that we're currently considering adopting, we will be about a third of our generation will be coal. And so there's a very big change there. Now, the orange there represent market purchases, which sometimes we don't know exactly what the source is, but the blue represents the additional renewables that we'll be bringing on. And next slide. And this just projects out, as we get further back into 2025, what we will look like. And again, our coal is going to be roughly just under 30%. And renewables, between the hydro, wind, and solar, we may be close to 45% of renewable. And what's interesting is the lighter color orange at the bottom there. It says BYU Cogen. BYU put in a facility to generate electricity, plus taking that secondary heat source to provide heating and cooling to the campus. And under the state code, that qualifies as being counted as renewable. So if we can continue to get BYU to perform as we hope, we may be close to 50% under that definition of the state. Over 50%. Now, again, that doesn't necessarily meet the renewable standard that some has. And some renewables, again, the state was after additionality, not just existing hydro. So we don't get to count all of our existing hydro. It's new hydro or new solar that we're counting on to meet that goal. So next slide. So just kind of, again, a little bit of a line chart that just kind of shows the difference. Starting from left to right, the top line is coal, and the bottom line in yellow is solar. And then the green represents the renewables. And I guess I'm just trying to say that you can tell that we do a crossover here very soon where more of our resource will start to be renewable than there is coal. So again, I think this represents and reflects an effort by Spanish Fork and UMPA to take advantage of some of the low-cost renewable resources out there. It helps us clean up our air. It helps us reduce the impacts of climate change. So these are all positive things without any significant rate increase to the customer. So next slide. So the items on the left are all the resources that we consider renewable now, and the items on the right are the future resources that we're bringing in the next few years. And I think you realize or recall about a year ago we signed a major contract for a solar project down in Mona that's called the Clover Creek Solar, and we're excited. And then just recently we've signed a contract for some wind power out of Cheyenne, and then we're still working with getting a small allocation of federal power from an Indian tribe in Arizona. And again, we've been talking with the city of Spanish Fork about building a community solar project on the abandoned landfill. So that kind of represents kind of our future plans. Next slide. What happens? Well, just in case people wonder, we still do supply some of our loads with coal. Coal has some good benefits. It's dispatchable and it's abundant in the state of Utah, so it's a very cost-effective resource for us. But as you can see, 2025, we have another portion of our coal contract go away, 2030, another section, and then depending on whether it goes that long, 2042, we will be completely out of coal. So where are we looking down the road? Well, again, we can add additional solar. We'll look at adding additional wind. Geothermal is a possibility. There is some talk about adding nuclear. The battery technology is exciting. We're watching it, still kind of expensive. And for certain spot market peaking power, our natural gas turbines, similar to what we have at West Valley or Provo Power Plant, are very viable. So that just gives you an overview of kind of the things that we're working on at UMPA and trying to achieve that goal. Last slide. Would like to invite any questions I can answer.
Well, you did good.
Put you to sleep.
I was impressed, almost. Kevin does a great job. We got great leadership down there at UMPA between him and Lane and their staff, and they're always looking to improve and keep our rates low. Our rates are a lot lower than anyone probably in the state, and so it's really good. And we're a well-respected organization nationwide, so they look up to us. In fact, Lane serves on the national board as their treasurer. So it's pretty cool to see that. So thanks, Kevin. Any other questions, comments? Okay.
Can I make one more statement?
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to, applaud the effort of the Spanish Fork staff. Again, the lawnmower exchange program that was launched not too long ago took off like wildfire in Spanish Fork for whatever reasons. You did well. And again, it was kind of a little dragged out. We didn't get it launched with the kind of COVID thing, but by May 1st, we launched it. And hats off to the Spanish Fork staff and Bailey and finance and all of those involved. They've gone ahead and accepted applications for the full allotment that was set aside, just under 200 applications. And, that's just a nice program that's going to help with air quality. Again, it's another green program for the agency, for your community. And again, I just think it's great that your staff was so energized to take it on and they did very well, and just want to compliment them for the good work that they did. Seth,
Thank you.
smile. Okay.
Thanks, Kev. Appreciate that. Okay.
Mayor, nobody thought that would go so fast.
No.
It was amazing, and we'll look for that again. But wow, last week between the Green Exchange and the dumpster program, we spent a lot of money
We have.
as a community doing some of these things, and they were all really good. But we'll look for that again next year.
Yeah, we, on that lawnmower exchange, we thought, well, we'll just allot 50% of the monies that we had, and that went just like that. So we said, let's do the whole amount, and that even went faster, so, no, it's good. Okay, let's move on to consent items.
Motion to approve the consent items.
Second?
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Argal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes. Let's go on to new business. Eagle Haven preliminary plat. And let me just say, it's so nice to be able to be here in person so I can hear who's making the motions and not trying to figure it out on the Zoom. It's great.
Esteemed Mayor, Honorable Council, appreciate the opportunity tonight to present. This proposal is pretty straightforward. It's about 9 acres located on the east side of 2550 East, not far from Maple Mountain High School. Some of you might remember a little over a year ago, there was a proposal made for the same property to have it developed as something of a 55 and older community, main floor living, that type of a development at a little bit higher density than what we're talking about tonight. As proposed, the project conforms to the city standards for developments in the R115 zone. The property's been zoned R115 since it was annexed a little bit over 10 years ago. It's fairly straightforward in that respect. Simple subdivision, fairly large lots, and both the Development Review Committee and the Planning Commission have recommended that it be approved.
Great. Any questions, comments?
My only question or comment is I'm sure it's coming along with the skinny roads, right?
People
You
love
don't
them. Yeah, I don't hear anything but
People-
praise for our local street design and how it's being used.
Dave? Okay.
Maybe it's just the people I hang out with, but yeah.
Don't like the skinny roads?
I will
Yeah.
tell you, if you go north on that road, just past Maple Mountain High School to one of the first subdivisions, yeah, right there north of Maple Mountain, those are two of the first subdivisions that are in my area with the LID guidelines and the roads that narrow to the corners and stuff. And they were skeptics at first, and now they quite enjoy the LID standards, so.
I'll keep my mouth shut. I was just giving you a hard time.
And
I
it's
hope
not
that's
the
the case
same
with this
people they hang
subdivision.
out
It's not,
with
you don't
either.
hang out with principals, no. We all don't need to love them, I suppose.
There you go. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve Eagle Haven preliminary plat.
Second?
Got a motion by Councilman Argal, a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes. Park Meadows Estate preliminary plat.
This is really just kind of funny timing. This property is adjacent to the project that we just talked about, to the east of it. We've been working on this for 3 years. The other project's been in process for just a few months, so again, it's just kind of strange happenstance that they happen to be on the same council agenda. The situation is the same. This property was part of the same annexation as the property that we just talked about. It's been zoned R115 since it was annexed. The proposal is to develop it consistent with our standards for residential projects in the R115 zone. Both the Planning Commission and the Development Review Committee have recommended that it be approved. And again, it's pretty straightforward. There's some unique things about this. I think the configuration of the project is challenging in a couple of different ways. It was hard for us. Incidentally, I think as well that this applicant that we're working with is the third group that's worked to come up with a way to make the project work. So for example, just simply planning for appropriate access to adjacent properties, that's what we call stub streets, such that the development of this property won't leave neighboring properties wanting for access. But the biggest issue certainly has been irrigation ditches, getting over ditches as they're piped so that they can be so they can continue to serve the areas that they serve, addressing issues relative to fencing next to ditches, different things like that. They've been consistent challenges for the different folks that we've worked with to deal with, and it was really just as of late that they were able to come to or come up with some plans that our staff feels comfortable with relative to how those different facilities, water delivery facilities are being handled. And we think this works. We think this works well. And I'll say this, I think it goes without saying, we can certainly use more lots for single-family development in the community. I think it'd be a great addition in that regard. And I think that's about it.
Great, thanks, Dave. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion on this one.
I move we approve the Park Meadow Estates preliminary plat.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Scobes, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes. All right. Resolution 20-13, authorizing the city pickup of public safety and firefighter employment retirement contributions.
I feel like I need some wipes. You know how the governor's conferences, they wipe it off? Where's that? No,
Nice job.
I'm teasing. This is the presentation that Kim Hall gave in our work session last council meeting. And in that, we shared with you quite a few details about a couple of new bills that have passed in 2019 and then in 2020 in the legislative sessions, which require us as public safety employers to increase the contribution that we make for our Tier 2 police officers. And we're required to contribute 2%. If you could go to the next slide, Scott. As of July 1st, 2020, the city will be required to increase the contribution by 2%. And the option that we have, and the reason that we're talking about this today, is we have the option of picking up the employee portion. So these bills required that the employee pay a certain percentage of their retirement, which is 2.27%. As of now, that number could change year over year. So the resolution that's before you today proposes that the city pick up that 2.27%. Part of the reason for this is because we would like to keep competitive benefits, especially for our police officers. Other cities have elected to pick this amount up as well, and we have to point this out separately from the regular budget. The tentative budget that you received and approved last council meeting had the numbers included on there for this. Scott, if you'll go to the next slide. The total amount, the total increase to the budget, if you do choose to pick this up, is $30,000. $14,000 is the amount that the city would pay regardless, an additional $16,000 if you choose to approve this resolution. Are there any questions about this?
All right. Seeing none, I'd entertain, whoop, go ahead.
Just a question. I know the chief has been involved in these up on Capitol Hill and everything. Chief, is there any detail you'd add to that besides what Tyler's mentioned about keeping our important public safety employees on making a change like this?
I really don't have anything to add, but I would like to compliment Kim Hall on her research that she has done on this, the status of other cities and what they're doing for their employees. And quite frankly, in a recent application that we had for employment here, some were coming to our city that their city was not supplying this same benefit. So what Tyler's mentioned is factual, that we need to be competitive in both our pay as well as our retirement benefits if we're going to get the cream of the crop.
Citizens should know that that's the dichotomy that you're against, right? Is competing for those good employees, city to city, county to county, and keep them here at protecting us and serving us.
Any other questions or comments, editorials?
No, I'll go ahead and move to approve Resolution 20-13, authorizing city pickup of public safety and firefighter employee retirement contributions.
Second.
It's got a motion by Councilmember Beck, a second by Councilman Argyle. This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
All right, that passes. Hey, I forgot to mention at the first, Councilman Gordon is out of town with family, and so we're excusing him at this time. He will be paying donuts to us when he comes back for missing this council meeting, so if you see him, let him know that. All right, let's move on to Resolution 20-14, approving various amendments to the Spanish Fork City employee personnel policy.
There are several items that that we're proposing be updated or added to the personnel policy manual. Scott, if you go to the next slide, just to highlight a couple of them, we wanted to try to clarify a couple of numbers and be a little bit more clear in wording. So as far as a residency requirement for, there are certain positions, so supervisors, those are on standby, and there's one other one in there. Anyway, they're required to live within a reasonable distance of the city. And before, the policy just said a reasonable distance, and kind of left that up to the decision of the city manager has the ability to I guess give kind of a waiver on that. We're proposing that be changed to be within 30 minutes of the city. The reason for that is to be able to respond in the event of an emergency. So if there was a natural disaster that took place, it would be nice to have our emergency personnel ready and available to respond in that event. Another item is in the policy. It talked about at-will employees receiving 3 months of sick leave when they're hired on, and so that there was always a debate as to what 3 months meant. So to clear that up, 520 hours of sick leave is actually what equates to 3 months worth of work time of sick leave. So we wanted to clarify that. Part-time employees, as part of the Affordable Care Act, we can't have our part-time employees work any more than 129.99 hours in a month. The way our policy read, it was that they couldn't work any more than 130 hours, which would be in violation of the Affordable Care Act, so we're proposing we change that to 129.99. And then just a couple of other things to touch on. Non-cash value leave time, we've defined what that is, when it expires, and retirement contributions, which we just talked about a minute ago and that you approved. This would actually put that into our personnel policy so that it shows that we're covering that 2.27% for our public safety.
I have a question.
employees.
What is
Yeah.
an at-will employee?
So it's defined in our personnel policy. An at-will employee would be any, gosh, I'd have to look up the exact definition. Seth, do you want to touch on that?
Sure, an at-will employee is somebody that doesn't have the same merit protections that most positions have that work here for the city. So the majority of our benefited positions all have what is called merit protection. It's afforded to them under Utah law. There are a handful of at-will positions. Many of them are actually in this room as the directors. And then our part-time employees also fall under that at-will category. And the gist of it is they can be terminated without following some of the due process requirements that the state law sets up. So they can, there's a different termination process there.
Okay.
We won't get into that detail because, you know, I'm at will. We won't get into that. I'm just kidding. So that's the gist of it. The
Okay.
termination process is different for them.
Thank you.
Comparable to the private sector, right? If you're at-will employee typically in private sector.
Generally speaking, yeah.
Thanks, Seth. Yeah, in the policy, Seth kind of outlined this, but it outlines department directors are at will, volunteers, all elected officials, members of boards and commissions, consultants and council regarding professional service, part-time, special projects, and seasonal employees. So those are the groups that fall within the at will.
You have a part-time employee that is umping in the 6.5 inning, the bottom of the 6th inning of a baseball game. You're going to send them home so they don't
That's right.
reach 130
Because
hours.
he's been making terrible calls, so you want him to
You're
go
done
home.
anyway.
Go
All
home.
right.
Yeah, if he's on his third strike, then yeah, he's probably out.
He's out.
That's right. We'll call her
Sorry.
on. Perfect. All right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move we approve Resolution 20-14, approving various amendments to the Spanish Fork City Employee Personnel Policy.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Scobes, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. This is also a roll call vote. Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
That passes. All right, Resolution 20-15, authorizing the mayor to execute Amendment Number 1 to the Utah County Fair Interlocal Cooperation Agreement. And don't all jump at once.
I was just waiting to see if Vaughn wanted to take this one since he did all the work on it. Well, not all of it. He wrapped it up. He was our closer, since we're using baseball terminology this evening. He was our closer. So this is a resolution that we've been working on for quite some time, as you'll know. This is an addendum to our interlocal agreement between Utah County and Spanish Fork City regarding this very fairgrounds facility. But this addendum is for, addresses the property just to the south of us, the old Swenson metal salvage yard that we've been talking about purchasing for some time. And basically this is an agreement for the county to pay half of that purchase price. Which, and I don't know if you have any questions on it, it has all the details in it. There's 9.39 acres. 1.5 of those acres we've set aside for a new buildings and ground shop in the future. It has your costs in there, basically 2.2 million, or roughly, and the county will be paying half of that, which is what this new addendum is obligating them to do. They have already approved this addendum, so we're just looking for authorization for the mayor to sign that as well.
Any questions?
That's good news, finally.
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 Definitely, finally.
We just had to bring in the right closer. Now it's done.
All right, if there's any other questions or not, I would entertain a motion on this.
Motion to approve Resolution 20-15, authorizing the mayor to execute addendum number 1 to the Utah County Fair Interlocal Corporation Agreement.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Argal, a second by Councilmember Beck. This also is a roll call vote. Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Argal.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
All right. Resolution 20-16 authorizing, authorizing the mayor to exercise encroachment agreement with the United States of America for encroachment upon federally owned land easements.
Mayor,
Nice, yeah.
before we have this next presenter.
But before we have this next presenter, maybe we ought to introduce.
Are you muting me? There you go, you are. Before we have this next presenter, I think we ought to present him.
Yes.
In a live setting. This is Vaughn Piquel, our new city attorney. He's been functioning in Spanish Fork now for a month and 19 days, well, plus or minus a few there. Came right at the beginning of COVID and right at the moment where we started having virtual meetings. So we haven't really had a meeting where you as council members and mayor could interact with Vaughn personally, although he looked pretty good in his office. He does have kind of a red wall that's always behind his computer, and we're working on that. But anyways, this is Vaughn Piquel. He's replacing Junior Baker, who retired after a wonderful career. And we are excited to have Vaughn here. And so this is Vaughn. And I think all of you had met him previously, but we thought maybe we ought to say, here's Vaughn.
Vaughn, are you going to repaint?
No, I wasn't planning on it, honestly. I mean, there's no need to. It's not the Ute red, it's a little more crimson, darker than that, you know? So I'm okay with it.
You're good? Okay.
I've already given him the authorization to, so it's his point, he can do that.
Yeah. If it happens over the weekend, I wouldn't complain. But, yeah. But no, thanks for the introduction, Seth, and I'm just really happy to be here, and it's been great working with the staff and all of you so far. As I was talking to Councilmember Beck before the meeting, everyone's been really kind, really patient, you know, as I learn all the new nuances of Spanish Fork. I'm familiar with Bluffdale very well, but you know, there's new things everywhere you go, and I'm just really happy that everyone's been so patient with me and answered my questions and don't point out all my mistakes. So tonight on your agenda is an encroachment agreement with the Bureau of Reclamation. It's a standard form. Like often the city facilities cross the Bureau's easements or their property, and they have this standard form for whenever you do that. The resolution would authorize the mayor to sign these standard form agreements, not just for the river run of townhomes, which is what this agreement is for, but any future encroachment agreements that follow this standard form. We think that's a good idea just because it'd be more efficient and wouldn't waste your time or having to reauthorize the mayor to sign something you've already seen before. Do you have any questions about the agreement or anything I can answer for you? Okay, I recommend you approve that.
Thank you, Vaughn. Seeing no questions, I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve Resolution 20-16, authorizing the mayor to execute encroachment agreements with the United States of America for encroachments upon federally owned land or easements.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Scobes, a second by Councilmember Mendenhall. This is also a roll call vote. Councilmember Scobes.
Aye.
Councilmember Argal.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendenhall.
Aye.
That passes. All right, thank you. Moving down, number 9, recycling, contamination reduction program. Oh, there he is.
Guess that's me today. Mayor, council members, thanks for all the work you do. I've been asked by Chris Thompson to come and present some of the concerns we have with the recycling program that we're
I'll
going through.
mention your name so people know.
I'm Max Saby,
Thank you.
Fleet and Garbage Service Division Manager. Okay, so what I'm proposing that we do is we educate the citizens of Spanish Fork on what can be recycled and what cannot be recycled. As I walk around and look at the garbage can, recycle cans rather, and things, there's probably 50% of the things that should not be in there. As I talk to the people that own or that has the cans, they're not aware of that. So we're trying to put together an educational program to help them understand what they can recycle. Right now in the district, the solid waste district, we have approximately 40% contamination rate. And so if we can cut that down to 20%, we can save $10 a ton to the city. So it would cost us $10 less a ton to get rid of it. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to hit at first under 20% and maybe even go lower than that. Now, part of the problem we have with that is we're only one of 7 cities, I think it's 7 cities in the district, but we're the second biggest recycling entity, and next to Provo. And so we recycle about 1,600 tons of recyclable material a year. Remember now, 40% of that, and that's not just Spanish Fork City, that's all of the district that's 40% contaminated. But we're probably right in there, right with it. And so there's 2 or 3 things that we'd like to do. The first thing that we'd like to do is we'd like to use the city newsletter, the city website, social media, and Channel 17, and put together some videos, some clips, get some from Republic, they've got some good ones out there, to help citizens understand what they can recycle and what they cannot. If we sit down and talk to people, what happened is we put out the recycle cans back a few years ago, and we had to opt out. And when we did, we didn't give them we didn't educate them of what they could put in there. And so people think that anything that's short of food or clothes pretty much can go in the recycle can. But it's not got a market and we can't recycle it. And so that's the first thing we'd like to do is use the website, the city newsletter, the Channel 17, the social media, to try to educate them. The next thing that when I've sat down with Chris, we've talked about doing is we would like to put flyers, so we'd walk around town and put flyers, door hangers, on the garbage cans. And this would just have a list of what can be recycled and what cannot be recycled. And then on the bottom of that would have a little QR code, and that would take them, if they scan that, would take them to a short video. The one that we're looking at right now is 37 seconds. And they can see what can be recycled and what cannot be recycled. And then after we'd walked around and put them on the cans, we'd have to do a section of the town at a time because we don't have the manpower, and there's a lot of people that recycle. We're about between 67, 68, 69% to recycle. And so then we'd do it in sections. And then 2 weeks later, we'd walk around again and would put a red tag on their can. If it had things in it, we'd have somebody open up the lid and look and see what was in the recycled can. And if I had things that could not be recycled, that contaminates the recycle stream, would put a little check box. Well, the red tag would have a list of what cannot be recycled. On the other side, have a list again of what can be recycled. Would put a check mark on what was in their can that could not be recycled. And what we'd like to do is we'd kind of like to turn the can around backwards, and for that 1 week, maybe not have Republic pick it up, so that they can see what it is. It's not only a savings to the city, but it's a savings to it makes us a more green community. As I've talked to people, they want to know how to recycle. They want to know how to do it and how to do it right, but they don't know. And so that's what we'd like to do. We'd like to educate them through the social media, the website, and things like that, and then we'd like to do the door hangers. And so that's what we're proposing today, is to get the go-ahead to try that right there. Any questions?
I like it.
Stacy likes it, so you're good.
I'm good then, okay.
So,
Okay.
we're good. Anything we can do to educate the public, I'm all for. I think that'd be a good thing to do.
I think they're hungry for it.
And I think it's important to note, this will be a little bit different. I mean, this will be a little bit more kind of in your face, right? You're gonna be touching my garbage can. But when it goes out on the street, it's there in the public right of way, and so we can. But our efforts, Max, I think you might say, our efforts to this point really haven't been that effective in getting the point across. The contamination rate, as he said, is really high. And I bet if I said to you, well, I'll say it right now, we have many people that recycle their pizza box. So I get some 2 jacks, and I put that in the recycle bin. And I won't ask you all to raise your hand, but I'm guessing if I did, the majority of people in this room would say, I recycle that. No, don't raise your hand. That's not one that you should recycle. That grease and the cheese and everything on there makes it so that's not a good recyclable material. And that happens over and over again, despite whatever education we've done. And so this is a little bit more intense, and some people will be probably uncomfortable, right? Well, hey, the city was invading my privacy even. But we feel like this very intimate, communication that, Scott, this is what we've seen in your can, and you can't do it. And this is the education about it, might be better. And I think what we want to make sure is that we're comfortable with that approach as we try to educate our residents and our recycle can users.
Councilman-
Surprised me, because sometimes I've asked, and I get the opinion that they think, well, we'll just throw everything in there and we'll do the recycling. And I tried to say, no, we get penalized for throwing that stuff in that's not recyclable because they have to remove it. So videos, SFCM, that kind of stuff, that might help change that a little bit.
I was going to say Councilman Gordon is not here and he loves garbage, so I'd like to nominate him to go door to door with you and put those tags on. I think he'd love that.
I'd like to nominate him too.
I think he would want to be there, so.
I'll take the orange one around, the red one I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's make sure we educate before we go to the
Absolutely.
red.
That's what the
Educate
first
before
step
we
would be.
educate, yeah.
Yep.
Pretty sure that Councilman Gordon, I'm pretty sure that he's watching this live at home, or not at home, where he's at. And he's actually volunteered to be part of that education campaign.
Yeah, I'm sure he's watching. That's what I would be doing if I was out of town.
But he volunteered to be a part of it. I don't think he was volunteering to do
Oh,
the-
you're saying he already volunteered?
to do the commercials and the education.
Oh, I would volunteer him to go a step further and go.
We
garbage
like
can to
volunteers.
garbage.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Max. Appreciate that. Need for a closed session?
I move that we
Yeah, we're
I move we adjourn
Closed
for
session
closed session for
to-
reasonably intimate litigation or land transaction.
There we go. Second.
There we go. Got a motion by Councilmember Mendenhall and a second by Councilmember Argyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for everyone being here. This was a historical time, a new thing, never happened before, meeting down here. So thank you. And hopefully, if we move to green, we'll be back in our chambers. So let's hope for green. Thank you.